Sleep training. There is barely a subject that has caused more discussions, arguments. Just, it's one of those subjects that always causes debates. It's just so many people are against it, so many people are for it. It's hard to find like a middle ground of people just being indifferent with that when it comes to that subject. So I've got my little friend here. You don't need sleep training. You don't? No, he doesn't. And I think there's also a lot of judgment involved when it comes to that particular subject. But I need to mention this first. People need to be more respectful for a mother's choices, because there's a lot of reasons why a mother chooses to do a certain thing. And one of those choices is sleep training, just like a lot of moms choose to breastfeed for many years. A lot of moms choose to give their baby a bottle from day one. It is honestly the mom's choice. But sleep training, like I said, it is so many times an issue for other mums or for other people generally. There's one important thing to understand with sleep training. I'm not saying put your baby in a room, close the door for 11 hours, let her cry the entire time, and then 11 hours later you're like, oh, good morning, honey, how did you sleep? That's not sleep training. I mean, they used to do that back in the days, and maybe you do that, and maybe you decide to do it like that. But there's so many ways now to sleep train. From the crying out method, which, I mean, some people probably do, but which I understand a lot of people are against, to something a little less, hardcore. There is so much nowadays. So many ways you can sleep train your baby without having them locked up in a room, letting them cry for hours. Why my husband and I decided to do sleep training had a very important reason, because our daughter is now 6 months old and just struggles massively with sleeping, just generally. And not just that she wakes up once in a while, but since 6 months on, she wakes up 10 times a night, between 5 and 10 times. And she's also very, very dependent on the pacifier. In a way, it's our fault because we introduced the pacifier to her, but back then it was so necessary because, like I said, my baby had colic, and it was a very, very tough time. And during that time, she needed something that calmed her down a little bit. And even if that was just a tiny, tiny little thing to take the edge off a little bit, that pacifier helped. Obviously, in the long run, it's not a good idea to, let them be so dependent on something like that. So the problem now was that after 6 months, she was so dependent on it, she couldn't fall asleep without it. So at night, obviously, the pacifier fell out of her mouth. Every time she wakes up, she starts crying. That happens, of course, at least 5 times, probably more, up to 10 times at night. Constantly, pacifier falls out, she wakes up, starts crying. So we couldn't do that anymore. So the last couple of weeks, we had literally just gotten out of the 4-month sleep regression, and we thought, okay, here we are. It must be better soon. And it didn't. If anything, it really went downhill now, so bad that we just couldn't sleep anymore. She didn't sleep. She was really moody during the day. So we said, we need another option. We need to find something that helps her sleep better, that helps us in the long run sleep better, just a solution that works for everybody. So we did a lot of research on sleep training. And like I said, for a lot of parents, it's not an option. And that's okay. And a lot of parents actually are quite lucky because their baby sleeps in the room with them, and their baby sleeps well and through the night, or only wakes up occasionally. They don't have that kind of urgency to start sleep training, but for us it has become an urgency because nobody got sleep anymore, and that can't be good for the baby as well. So after lots of research, we looked into the Ferber method, and for the Ferber method, basically she sleeps in her own room, in her own cot, and you put her down, you snuggle her, and then you leave the room, and then they might cry for a few minutes, and after the first 3 minutes you go back. You kind of reassure them, they're not alone, mummy is here, daddy is here, and you leave the room again. And then the baby might start to cry again. And then instead of 3 minutes, it is 5 minutes longer that you come back in, calm them down, leave the room again. And then after 10 minutes, if they cry again, you come back after 10 minutes, and so on and so on. So basically what the goal is that after 20 minutes or so, they start to realize, I'm not alone, my parents are still here, nothing bad is happening, and they learn to self-soothe. And because she doesn't have the pacifier anymore, she needs self-soothe. She needs to learn how to self-soothe, especially at night. So that's what we did the first night, and surprisingly, she took really well to it. Honestly, we expected, because we've read so much. Honestly, we did our proper research, and it was like 50-50. There were like lots of people who said, oh, it did not work for us. And our baby was just so hysterical, we just had to break it off. And other parents said they did it once, they never looked back, and they had the best nights. Baby had the best night, parents slept. So to be honest, I expected the night to be an absolute fiesta, like really bad. She cried for the first 20 minutes. We did what the Ferber method suggested. So we went after 3 minutes to check on her, then after 5 minutes. And you know what? After 20 minutes, she calmed down. She realized that she's okay, that we are close by, and she fell asleep. And then we've got like obviously a little baby, we've got a little camera there where we can watch her. So we made sure we had an eye on her that way. And then during the night, she woke up a few times, and she managed to get back to sleep by herself without help. So we were absolutely baffled. About 3 o'clock in the morning, she had a night feeding because she was still hungry enough. So sleep training doesn't mean you completely cut out their food if they are still not used to that. A lot of babies at 6 months or older still eat in the middle of the night. So that's completely normal. And then she just went back to sleep. And that was the first night. And the second night, she didn't even cry. I mean, I understand that doesn't happen to all babies, okay? But she just took so well to it. And this is the first night in 6 months that she slept through the night. And she woke up. She actually woke up at 5. We watched her on a little baby camera. And then she just continued sleeping for another hour. And then she was up at her, normal time around 6. Between 6:30 is her usual time. Unbelievable. I am talking about, seriously, my baby has been a bad sleeper from day one. She has never been a good sleeper. I can probably count on one hand how many good nights we've had with her since she was born. And it has helped. It has changed our world, honestly. And it was an absolute game changer. At least it worked for us. Like I said, a lot of mums have complained that it hasn't worked for them. As I mentioned this many times before, no two babies are alike. So it worked for my daughter, it might not work for yours. But I'm sitting here and making this video because I just want to say that a lot of subjects like sleep training don't even get discussed because they get so much negative comments, really, and so much negative opinions, and a lot of people are so dead against it, when in fact it might be literally a life changer for you and your baby. So honestly, I'm absolutely against just locking your baby in a room and letting it cry for hours and hours. But what I am absolutely for and positive about is trying and finding the best option for you and your baby so that everyone actually gets sleep, because no exhausted baby is a happy baby. And trust me, I know it from experience. My baby never slept well, and during the day she could get really cranky because of that. And now she is getting proper sleep, and we are getting proper sleep. It just shouldn't be so criticized. if couples decide to do that, they normally have a good reason for it. I don't think it is selfish and it isn't cruel, because I mean, literally, we constantly got up to check on her and we made sure that she was safe and that she was okay. So of course we didn't just ignore her. This isn't about letting her cry it out all night so that she learns. This isn't a tough lesson for her to grow, stronger or something like that. That is literally an option, a possibility for all of us to get a better sleep at night. And it has worked. So sleep training should be something that for sure you do proper research on before you just start. And it might work completely differently for your baby, but it should not be something that women or parents generally should be ashamed of admitting that they're doing it. I mean, due to SIDS, of course, we had her in the room for the first 6 months because that's what was suggested. The nurses, the doctors, everybody tells you that it's very recommended that in the first 6 months a baby sleeps in your room because of the chance of SIDS being a lot higher. So of course we did that. But now that she turned 6 months old, and the sleep has actually just gone downhill, if anything, we thought we should try it. And if she had cried and cried and it would have not worked, we would have not continued and we would have tried to find something else. But everybody should have that chance to find what works best for them and their baby. And if that is sleep training, then that shouldn't be judged or criticized. Mums shouldn't be seen as bad mums for wanting their baby to sleep independently in their own room after 6 months when it's safer. Because in the end, like at least in my case with my husband and my baby, everybody wins. Everybody wins, not just my husband and I. This is about my baby just as much. And for every mum who decides I want to do sleep training, it is up to them. Do what feels right for you and your baby. It is about listening to your own instinct, knowing your baby well, knowing what works for you, for your husband or partner, whoever you're living with, what works for your baby, and not listening to other people's opinion and criticism, but really just listen to your own instinct and what you feel is right for your baby and yourself. It has worked for me. It might not work for you, but at least have the option and don't be scared to be criticized by people. You should not be scared of that, and you shouldn't feel like you have to justify yourself, because in the end, you know what's best for yourself and your baby, and other people don't know. They don't know what's best for you and your baby. So don't hesitate doing what feels right for your baby and yourself.